Hello and welcome back to the Illinois Department of Commerce Office of Minority Economic Empowerment and the Illinois Small Business Development Center Network's Business Basics series. Very excited to have another video for you covering basic topics that we understand entrepreneurs need in order to be successful in business. We take the topics that are pertinent and we try to do all we can to slow it down and carry forward content in the most simple terms, keeping it short and sweet and presenting it in the video so you can rewatch it as often as you need to. A little bit more about our office, the Office of Minority Economic Empowerment. I will not read the slide, but I'll share that my name is Matt Simpson. I'm the African American Business Development Manager, and I am part of an office that is focused on supporting minorities, women, veterans, and individuals with disabilities throughout the state of Illinois, working to advance business. And you'll see us live with the whole team at the end, but right now, what I will do is stop sharing and introduce Maura Downs from the Women's Business Development Center, who's going to be talking about a very important topic of contracting. Why should I certify my business? How do I do business with the government? And all those pertinent topics related to doing business with the government. So with that, I'll pass it to Maura Downs.
Hello, and thank you for having me, and thank you for the introduction. I am going to share my screen and get started. So again, my name is Maura Downs. I'm with the Women's Business Development Center. We are here to talk today about certification. But before we dive into it, I'll talk a little bit about our organization. The Women's Business Development Center is here to help grow small businesses. We do not focus on just women-owned businesses. We focus on veterans, minority-owned, disabled persons. So we cover a wide spectrum of people who we help to scale their business, get access to capital. We offer a variety of different coaching services that can help you grow your business. So we are here to help you grow your business. And our belief is that this creates economic impact for communities. Our agency has access to capital, access to contracts. So we help you access government contracts, or we help you access non-governmental contracts in the private sector. And we provide a lot of advising and different programming that can help you access, grow your business. So on to certification. So the question is certification right for you? So this is a big decision because there's a lot of work that goes into getting certified. And there's also a lot of responsibility once you are certified. So you need to make sure that this is something that's worth it for you. When I am counseling companies on whether or not they should get certified, the first question I ask is, who is your client? Who is your target audience for your certification? So if you are looking to be a prime contractor, meaning you're going to be kind of at the top level of that contract, your target audience is the agency. So maybe that's the state of Illinois, the city of Chicago, Cook County, the federal government. If you're a subcontractor, that means you're going to sell to the prime. So you're going to be the next tier down on that supply chain. So you're going to be selling your services to a prime. So you need to understand where you fall in that supply chain, and then you need to think about what certification you need. So if you're going to the federal government, that's one certification. We'll get into this. But if you're going to another agency, you need to make sure you have the right certification for that agency. And then you have to understand, if you're a subcontractor, what certifications your prime needs, which can be difficult. So I'm going to help you kind of try to go through all that. So why would you get certified? So certification, I like to say, is a marketing tool. It's not, it's not the gold standard. It's not the magic ticket to getting a contract. It's a bonus. It's an icing on the cake that you can have that will help you get your foot in the door. So most government agencies are required by law to have a program. So you probably heard about these types of programs. For the city of Chicago, for example, It's 25%. There's a spending goal of 25% with minority-owned companies and 5% goal with women-owned companies. Also now, most corporations, think Walgreens, Amazon, Google, Caterpillar, corporations like that have diversity spending goals. So you can market yourself to those companies with your certification. So there's a government portion of this, and then also a private portion. So you need to think about, am I going to market my services or goods to a corporation in the private sector or a government? So this is, a lot of companies do both, and that's okay. You can get multiple certifications, but these are the things you should think about while you're deciding if you should certify. So is this certification right for you? We talked about if the product or services is targeted at corporations or a government agency. So you need to think about what they buy. So a lot of times when I'm talking to a client, they will tell me, oh, I have, this great product that government has never seen before, and they're selling it in the private sector and they want to turn it over to the government. That's a really good idea to start in the private sector and then move over. You want to make sure that you have the capacity to deliver that amount of product, or you have the capacity to provide that level of service. If you get, if you're a small company with 2 or 3 employees and you get a huge contract that you can't perform on, that's not good for your business. Another thing to think about is this process is very invasive. So are you willing to share some private details of your company, like your tax return? You have to turn over your birth certificate. You have to turn over a lot of documents about your company. So you have to be willing to do that. And are you clear that certifications do not guarantee that your company will receive contracts? This is an important one that we emphasize a lot, because a lot of companies come to us once they're certified and they say, I thought these, contracts they were just going to be calling me, begging to be on a contract, and I haven't gotten a single thing. You have to still market your company, provide a good product or service, not in addition to being certified. It's definitely not a magic ticket, so we want to make sure everyone understands that. Moving on. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of different types of certifications. So this is why you need to know who you're selling to. So if you're trying to sell your product or service to the local government, so think Cook County, City of Chicago, any of the local smaller agencies, that's going to require a local certification from the City of Chicago or Cook County for the most part. There's also the state of Illinois. If you want to sell your products or service there, you should get certified with the state. The next type of certification is the DBE certification. This is a federal certification that is administered locally. So here in Illinois, we have 5 agencies in Illinois that administer the DBE program locally. And this is for companies that are interested in federally funded transportation projects. So think about, the new infrastructure bill, that kind of project where they're building roads or bridges. That's who is going to use the DBE certification. So we can, if you want to talk to us more about how to decide if DBE is right for you, let me know. It's a little bit tricky once we get into the next one, which is federal. So if it's federal funded but not administered locally, so at the federal level, so think the VA, the Department of Defense, those types of agencies, that's a federal certification. So there are a bunch of different certifications you can get at that level. And lastly,
more would that include the sam.gov?
Yes, very good. That includes, so at sam.gov, there are several certifications that you can self-certify. So in your SAM certification, you can just click a box to say that you're a small disadvantaged business and you'll be certified. It's just that easy. So that's a nice feature. Some of the federal certifications do include a actual review of your documents or review of an application. So I could do a whole nother presentation on the different types of federal certifications. And then the last one.
Not to cut you off again, but I just know that for some of the states, applications for granting and things like that, one of those requirements is to have your sam.gov number.
Yes.
So it kind of helps for people maybe to understand that when you get that sam.gov self-certification, that is one of these items on the list. Am I right about that?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
sam.gov is a good thing to have for almost any business. It can be helpful in a lot of ways, and you might most likely will end up needing it for one reason or another anyway. So you might as well go get your self-certification, have it ready to go.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, and then last we have the private certifications. So this is if your target client, target audience is a Fortune 500 company, a private corporation. So again, Walgreens, Amazon, Google, those types of places, they will accept a private certification. So our agency, the WBDC, will certify you as a WBE with a private certification. There's another organization called the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council, and they will certify you as a minority-owned business. And again, both of those certifications are a little bit easier to get because they have fewer restrictions in terms of your personal net worth and your size, which most of these government certifications will restrict you on. So it's good to know that there's a difference there, and it's a little bit less restrictive, and just great if you're not interested in doing government work. Okay, moving on to the application guidelines. So all certifications that I mentioned have a general framework of the same requirements. So this is general. In the specifics, it gets a little bit different. But in general, all certifications require ownership by a woman or other disadvantaged party. So minority, veteran, disadvantaged person, any of those. This ownership should be at least 51%. It needs to be real and substantial, which means that you need to be able to substantiate the ownership through the corporate documents and typically through an initial contribution to show that you put some skin into the game in order to acquire your initial ownership interest. You also, as the owner, need to share in the risks and profits that would typically be experienced by a business owner. So you need to make sure that you're getting, if you're the 51% owner, you should be getting 51% of the profits. And then I often get asked what risks mean. There's a lot of different ways this can manifest, but the most typical things to look for is, let's say that your initial contribution to start the company is a loan, but the 49% non-disadvantaged owner acquired the loan and put all the collateral in for that loan to start the company, and you didn't put in anything. You're not sharing in the risks of the business equally with that other owner. So they would see that as not legitimate ownership, and you will get a lot of questions on that and potentially not be able to be certified. The second tenet of certification is a contribution of capital and expertise. So I mentioned that you have to put in an initial capital contribution, and you also have to have a requisite level of expertise to control that type of company. So if you're starting a construction company, but you've been working at an accounting firm for the last 10 years, they're going to have a lot of questions about how you gained the expertise in order to control that type of company. So in a lot of situations where it is a construction company with somebody who's an accountant, once I talk to them, I find out, oh, your dad owned a construction company your whole life, and you grew up, going to jobs with him. You've worked there every summer. So you do have expertise. It just isn't coming through on your resume. And that's something that you want to make sure comes through, is that you have the expertise to control this type of company. Next is operation and control of the company. So there's two types of control: managerial and operational. Managerial control is what's in your corporate documents. I have too many companies who come to me once they've gotten a denial or they're getting questions from a government agency, and they say my bylaws say I don't control the company, or they say my operating agreement doesn't give me the control of the company. And then I look at the bylaws or the operating agreement, and it's correct. They're not controlling the company. Somebody I just worked with last week had a male owner who had one vote in their bylaws, and the qualifying owner had one vote in the bylaws. So that's 50-50, and that's not controlled by the disadvantaged owner. So you need to make sure that you read your corporate documents and understand what they say, because that can really cause you a problem when you go to get certified. Operational control is a little different. That's, who's actually controlling the company on a day-to-day basis. In an application, the certifying agent will look at different things like who signs contracts, who signs leases, who's authorized on the bank signature card to execute checks, things like that. They will look at to make sure that the qualifying owner is, executing most of the operational control over the company. And the last tenant they'll look at is independence from other firms. So they want to make sure that you have an arm's length relationship with any other firm, which means that, if you're renting space from another company, which is totally fine, you need to be paying, market rent for that space. If you're getting equipment from another company, you need to make sure that you're paying for that equipment with, again, market rates. Things like that will be closely scrutinized to make sure that you're not overly dependent on one company and not getting too much assistance from that company. Okay, so the typical application process, you are on step one, so congratulations. You're gonna look at your company and decide if you're eligible. So you will determine your eligibility, and if you think you're ready to proceed, you will put together all of the documents that you need to complete the application. This is a long list of documents, so make sure that you kind of have gathered all of those documents before you start the application. So then you'll go online, you'll start the application. Almost every agency at this point does the application online, which makes it very easy. Well, not very easy, just sort of easy, if you know what I mean. But you go online, you answer all the questions, you upload your documents into an online repository, and then you hit submit. And once you've done that, the application is turned over to the agency, who will review the documents and look it over, and they will likely ask you questions. And they'll say, oh, you forgot this document. Oh, you forgot that document. Oh, your resume doesn't say anything about your experience in this area. Can you please explain? Things like that. They will also do a site visit. Almost every agency, I can't think of one that doesn't, will come out and do a site visit, or these days they will do a Zoom interview with you. And in this interview, they will be asking you questions like, they're asking you questions to find out if you know how to control this type of company. They will then, after the site visit, and after making sure they have all of the documents, they will make a final decision. And then shortly after that, they will hopefully email you with a certification letter and say, hey, you're certified, here's your letter. And then they'll post you on their website. If you're denied, keep in mind that you always have an opportunity to appeal. So hopefully that doesn't happen to any of you, but that is an option. Okay, so all certifications require an annual renewal. This is a much shorter process than your initial application. You just usually attach a tax return, maybe your updated license, answer a few questions, and then you're on your way. Typically, they begin the process, 60 to 100 days, 20 days before the expiration of your certification. But I always recommend the expiration date on your calendar. Don't rely on the agency to notify you, because some do and some don't. And then some, get the wrong email address. Things like that happen all the time. And agencies are not that interested to hear that that you didn't get the email, and that's why you didn't file your renewal on time. So the onus is definitely on you to keep that certification active. The renewal applications are also completed online. So it's, again, fairly easy to complete. And then some agencies will take a 5-year review of your company. The state of Illinois now does 7. I think the city of Chicago does 5 years. And they'll do kind of another detailed review of your application to see where you are after 5 years and just make sure that you continue to meet all of the requirements for the program. Okay, so that is it. I have my email address right here and the email address of some of my colleagues on here and our website. But with that, I will turn it back over to Matthew.
Maura, thank you so much. That was a very thorough presentation. I think you hit on all those high points. The certification is like a marketing tool to help you sell your product or services to organizations, whether they're public or private, with diversity spending goals.
Yes, great recap.
And then just a little bit about that interview piece. I think that's something that may kind of raise people's ears a little bit. And the agency may want to interview you or visit your business to make sure that you are actually the owner of the business and you haven't listed somebody else as an owner just to get a certification, right? Okay.
Correct. So if you're really owning and controlling that business, you have absolutely nothing to be worried about on a site visit. If you're a front for somebody else, you should be very nervous because they will figure it out.
Okay.
So yeah.
So for my last piece of information, what I'll do is just share the team from the Illinois Office of Minority Economic Empowerment. You see myself, Deanna Alfaro, who is the Latinx Business Development Manager, and Michelle Laura White, who is the Women's Business Development Manager. You see our contact information. And I thank you, Maura, once again for your time. We are right at our mark for 30 minutes. So with that, I would say, please feel free to share this information with anybody you know. Please rewatch it, take notes, and let us know if there's anything else we can do to help. Thank you.
Thank you.